This is Flores GNT from Group 2. Today I will be discussing the teacher's rights, duties, and responsibilities, the Education Act of 1982, Batas Pambansa bilang 232. And let's find out that later. And also, we will talk about the general provisions, the educational community, and the educational system. So let's get started. Today, we are here to talk about the teacher's rights, duties, and responsibilities, the Education Act of 1982, Batas Pambansa bilang 232. We will talk about the general provisions, the educational community, and the educational system. Now, to start off, let us take a look at their definition. First, what is Batas Pambansa bilang 232? It is an act of providing for the establishment and maintenance of an integrated system of education, and it is also known as the Education Act of 1982. It also provides the latest and more specific provision of rights, duties, and parent relation to education. First is the general provisions. Next, we have the General Provisions, Chapter 1, Preliminary Matters. Section 1, the Education Act of 1982. It was approved by our late President Ferdinand Marcos, and it was promulgated on September 11, 1982. Section 2, these acts shall apply to and govern both formal and non-formal systems in public and private schools in all levels of the entire educational system. For the Chapter 2 Declaration of Basic State Policy and Objectives, Section 3, these are the national developmental goals. First is to achieve and maintain an accelerating rate of economic development and social progress. Second is to ensure the maximum participation of all the people in the attainment and enjoyment of the benefits of such growth. And lastly is to achieve and strengthen national unity and consciousness and preserve, develop, and promote desirable cultural, moral, and spiritual values in a changing world. The state shall promote the right of every individual to relevant quality education, regardless of sex, age, creed, socioeconomic status, the physical and mental conditions, racial or ethnic origin, political or other affiliation. For the Section 4, the educational system aim to: first is to provide for a broad general education that will assist each individual in the peculiar ecology of his own society, to attain his potentials as a human being, to enhance the range and quality of individual and group participation in the basic functions of society, and lastly is to acquire the essential educational foundation of his development into a productive and versatile citizen. Second is to train the nation's manpower in the middle-level skills for national development. Third is to develop the profession that will provide leadership for the nation in the advancement of knowledge for improving the quality of human life. And lastly is to respond effectively to changing needs and conditions of the nation through a system of educational planning and evaluation. All educational institutions shall aim to inculcate love of country, teach the duties of citizenship, and develop moral character, personal discipline, and scientific, technological, and vocational efficiency. Second, we have the educational community. Next, we have the educational community, Chapter 1, Preliminary Provisions. Prior to Section 6, Educational Community, it refers to those persons or groups of persons as such or associated in institutions involved in organized teaching and learning systems. We have parents or guardian, students, school personnel, and schools. Next, for the Chapter 2, Rights, Section 10, Rights of all school personnel. The right to free expression of opinion, the right to be provided with free legal service, the right to establish, join and maintain labor organizations, and the right to be free from involuntary contributions except those imposed by their organizations. Section 11. Special rights and/or privileges of teaching or academic staff. First, the right to be free from compulsory assignments not related to their duties as defined in their appointments or employment contracts, unless compensated therefor conformably to existing law. Second is the right to intellectual property consistent with applicable laws. Third, teachers shall be deemed persons in authority when in discharge of lawful duties and responsibilities, and shall therefore be accorded due respect and protection. Lastly, teachers shall be accorded the opportunity to choose alternative career lines either in school administration, in classroom teaching, or others for purposes of career advancement. For the Chapter 3 Duties and Obligations, Section 16 Teacher's Obligations. Perform his duties to the school, be accountable, render regular reports, maintain and sustain his professional growth, and refrain from making deduction in students' scholastic rating for acts that are clearly manifestations of poor scholarship. And lastly, the educational system. Now we have the educational systems, Chapter 1, Formal Education. Section 21, the objectives of elementary education, is to provide basic knowledge necessary for living in the developing society. Section 22, the objectives of secondary education, to continue to promote the objectives of elementary education and equip him with skills for productive endeavor. Section 23, the objective of tertiary education, is to train the nation's manpower to develop the professions that will provide leadership for the nation and to advance knowledge through research work. For the Chapter 2 Non-Education and Specialized Educational Services, Section 24 Specialized Educational Service. First, the work education or practical arts. Second, the special education. Third, the non-formal education. The objectives of non-formal education are as follows. First is to eradicate illiteracy. Second is to provide unemployed and underemployed youth and adults with appropriate vocational technical skills. And lastly is to develop among the clientele of non-formal education proper values and attitudes necessary for personal, community, and national development. Overall, it contains the right to form, establish, join, and participate in organizations and societies recognized by the school to foster the intellectual, cultural, spiritual, and physical growth and development, or to form, establish, join, and maintain organizations and societies for purposes not contrary to law. It provides the latest and more specific provision on rights, duties, and parents' relation to education. That's it for today's class, and we hope you had loads of knowledge acquired from today's lesson.